Okay, looks like we are live. I am very washed out and very yellow. But you know what? We're in there. And this is what week 17 is going to be. So we will just take our last couple of seconds to get everything ready and geared up. This will be by far, the worst episode of this show that has ever existed, and that is a bar that is difficult to get to. But this will be the single worst episode of this show that ever happens. Nerd tease. All right, and I think we are just about ready to roll. All right, here we go. In 5, 4, 3, and yes, this is what I do every week, 2, and 1. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Tease, and welcome to Week 17. Week 17 of my weekly NFL football pick show, the live stream edition for the 2019 NFL season and postseason. And yeah, it has been obviously a bit of a whirlwind lately, as it has been for everybody with the holiday season and just everything that everybody has going on. And to be perfectly honest, that's where I'm going to start this week, which is explaining why it's Saturday evening and I'm only getting around to doing the show just now. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, it takes 8 to 10 hours for me to produce this show every single week. And it blows people's minds when I say that, because it's like, you just talk about football. Yes, but it is the planning week to week. It is the performance of the actual show. It's the editing of the show. It's the uploading of the show. It's the sharing on social media. It's everything that goes into making a show like this. It's about 8 to 10 hours a week. And you know what? During the Christmas season this year, I simply did not find 8 to 10 hours in that time frame where I could do this show. So instead, this is what week 17 is going to be. It is going to be, as I mentioned off the top, probably the single worst episode of this show that has ever been produced. Now, let's talk about week 16 before we talk about the games upcoming in week 17, many of which do actually still have some significance. I see Martin in the chat. Martin, thank you so much for coming. He says, I'm ready. Been ready since Tuesday. Awesome. Thank you so much, Martin. Thanks for stopping by. So, week 16, how did I do? Short answer, poorly. Longer answer, poorly by my own standards. And those are the standards that I set for myself. It was not a strong week for me in week 16. I only went even money. I only went 8 and 8 straight up. And against the spread and over under, I simply did not do that. Against the spread, I was only 6, 9, and 1 last week, which obviously is underwater. And we're still well underwater on the season against the spread. And over under was an absolute tank. It was 4 and 12. If you'd have gone against everything I told you to do over under last week, you would have made yourself a heck of a lot of money betting in Vegas. So yeah, 6, 9, and 1 against the spread and 4 and 12 over under. That also basically torpedoes my chances of finishing the regular season over under at or above 500, which was something that I thought I would be able to accomplish this season. Unless I go on a crazy hot streak here in week 17, it doesn't look like that is going to happen either. I'm just going to take a second here. Martin, since you're in the chat, can you hear me okay? Is the audio fine? Do I sound okay? Do I sound like my normal effervescent self? So I'm just going to wait for a second and get Martin to answer that for me before we move on to some more pleasant things when we talk about the pick'em pools and we talk about fantasy football, because of course, week 16 last week, the fantasy football championship weekend, if your fantasy league means a dime. And honestly, again, if you're in a fantasy league and you're still playing this week in week 17, get a better fantasy league, because you should not be playing a week 17 that is likely going to be filled with superstar players not playing. So if you're still playing in week 17, I would suggest getting another league. Martin says the audio is fine, so we're going to move on. So in the two pick'em pools, of course, that I do, which is my own, as well as the official NFL YouTube prognosticators pick'em pool, where I only went 8-8 straight up. It wasn't a strong week in either pool. In my pool that uses confidence points, I did bring in 79 of the 136 possible confidence points that I would usually, the maximum, sorry, that you can bring in per week. So 79 out of 136. I've had weaker weeks, but it certainly wasn't a strong week. I'm sitting in 10th place right now out of 37 with my 147 correct straight up wins and 1,305 possible confidence points so far on the season. We're just going to go right over here and take a peek at who won week 16. The winner of week 16 was Stat Pack, who I believe would be Matt, the NFL fanatic, I believe is Stat Pack. So he won the week, went 13-3 last week. Tremendous straight up week for Matt. 114 out of 136 possible confidence points. So that was good enough to win week 16 in the pool. You can tell I'm flustered because I wasn't planning on doing the show this way, but I was like, it's Saturday night. I got to do something. So I'm a little flustered. I'm going to try to slow down a little bit and see if that helps. Overall, in my pick'em pool, Justin V, still the overall leader in the pool, 1,375 possible confidence points. So doing some quick math, first to 10th, which is me, separated by 70 points. And that pool does continue throughout the playoffs. So, I mean, if you're fifth place or below, you're at least 45 to 50 points out of it. It's going to be a real struggle to get up inside the top 5 or push for the overall championship. But it's not out of the question at this point that somebody could still jump up. And that's just what I'm praying for. If we take a peek at the official NFL YouTube prognosticators pick'em pool, I'm in 11th place right now. I'm in 11th place all alone with my 147 correct straight up picks on the season. Let's take a peek at who won in week 16. We're going to go back 1 week. And Dakota won week 16, a 14-2 straight up record as opposed to this kid that only went 8-8. 14-2 is tremendous in what I thought was a very difficult to predict week. So, hey, good on you, Dakota, for picking up. And there's a number of upset picks that Dakota took in there as well. 14-2 is a heck of a week. We go back to the standard and Bubsy's picks, basically running away with this thing at this point. 162, 77, and 1 straight up this season. They have opened up an 8-pick lead over Prager and Martin, who's in the chat. Martin with 154 correct straight up picks so far this season. That's a heck of a season so far, Martin. I think you should be very, very proud of that. But yeah, Bubsy's at 162 with a week to go and has basically run away with this thing. So that is all that. I'm going to pop back over into the chat. Martin, you're doing fine. I appreciate that, Martin. Thank you very much. You've always been a massive flag waver for me, and know that it has been greatly, greatly appreciated over the years and continues to be. Take another little sip of nerd teas there. Let's see. What else can we talk about here before we actually get into the Week 17 games? Fantasy football. So this season, like I've mentioned a couple of times, I played in 8 fantasy football leagues this year. I made the playoffs in all 8 of them, which I have never done before. So 8 for 8 making the playoffs. I was in multiple championship games. I believe I was in 5. I did bring in 3 fantasy football championships this season, which includes the championship in the official NFL YouTube Prognosticators Fantasy Football League. I won my matchup against Connor, who has been in the league, I guess, as long as the league has existed. Connor's been in the league. And I was very fortunate. I had a big week. He had a pretty weak week but I wound up beating him. And man, that means a lot because it means a good chunk of moolah, a good chunk of this for this guy right here. So I was very, very proud. I've never won that pool before, so the fact that I was able to win that pool is tremendous. So I was very, very happy about that. Hey, the blind Canadian cat is in the chat now. Cody Roy Parker. Connor started Parabust, meaning Brashad Perriman. Hey, now I started Brashad Perriman in a number of leagues this week just because of the injury to Mike Evans and the injury to Chris Godwin. It wasn't the worst start. And I mean, I think he had 107 receiving yards or something like that. He deserves that loss, signed a stubborn Ravens fan. That makes sense. All right, that makes sense because everybody thought he was going to be like the next big thing in Baltimore. I thought he was going to be the next big thing in Baltimore. Turned out that that wasn't so much the case. So, hey, Cody, thank you for stopping by. But yeah, 3 fantasy football championships. I'm incredibly proud of that fact that I won 3, including the one, aside from my own league, of course, that I wanted to win the most, which was the one across my peers in the NFL YouTube prognosticators community. So I was very happy about that, and I'll be very happy with the money when it comes in. And very shortly, you'll be able to see what I'm going to be spending at least a chunk of that money on. No love lost. Congrats, Justin. Thanks so much, Cody. All right, so let's take another look here. Anything else we want to talk about? So, let you know, of course, like I do every week, that if you go to the description of this video file on YouTube or of the audio file on SoundCloud, which I hope to have eventually, iTunes, or wherever you happen to get your favorite podcasts or NFL videos like this one, then you can find all of my results from last week, all of my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 17 in the NFL. You can find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, and you can find information on my great friends and sponsors at Nerd Tees. I'm working only on strengthening and deepening my relationship with Nerd Tees for next season. I'm very, very excited about the prospects that could come out of that. Today's blend from nerdtees.ca, where you can use my promo code BWFinest to save 15% at checkout. You're going to get free shipping in Canada on any order over $75. Or if you're in the United States, 2 clicks of a button and everything is in US dollars for you. Today's blend is cookie dough because you know what? Christmas is gone, but the sweet treats just keep coming, and those come from nerdtees.ca. So go to Nerd Tees, use my promo code BWFinest, save your 15%, get your free shipping if you're in Canada, get your great conversion rate on the US dollar, find yourself something to love, or find someone you love something to love, and you can do it on nerdtees.ca. Now that we've done our business, it is time to do our business. We are going to go to the week 17 games, and I'm gonna pull the, open the curtain a little bit here and let you know how much prep has Justin done for picks in the week 17 games. Nothing. I don't even have straight up, as I sit here right now, I don't even have straight up picks. So what we're going to be doing on this lovely live stream is we're going to be chatting about it a little bit, about each game. If there's playoff significance, if there's not, then we'll probably skim straight through it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm literally going to be making these picks with you live on stream as we do them. And actually, so that I can keep track of the against the spread picks, I literally have a pad and paper. So like I said, look, I put the caveat off the top of the episode. This is going to be the single worst episode of this show that has ever been produced. It's potentially a tire fire, but come along on this journey with me. Cody in the chat says, for the lovely people who don't know, I played Justin in the fantasy football semis, lost by less than a point. It was literally heartbreaking. Like, I still kind of feel bad for that because it's like, I don't really feel like I did much of anything to really deserve to win that. It was more like Devin Singletary lost it for Cody. It was really, really rough. As a first-year player in the Progs League, I'm happy for where I went, but I was within grasp for more. And you absolutely were. 100%. By all rights, I should not have won that matchup. I did. Luckily, I was able to have a great showing in the final and wind up winning it. I would not be surprised in the least if you were right back to where you were this season, Cody, because very clearly you're an experienced player. So I wouldn't have any concern over your future in the pool. I think you're going to do just fine. So I'm going to pull up here. First of all, I guess we should take a second to talk about like what's still worth playing for here for some of these teams as we head into the games in week 17. Now, there are a number of teams, obviously, that have already clinched a playoff berth, clinched their division, clinched, home field advantage. That would be Cody's Baltimore Ravens. The AFC Championship goes through Baltimore, or should go through Baltimore, as the Ravens at 13-2 can't be caught. They've won the AFC. And I don't think even the biggest homerish Ravens fans, I don't think would have thought that at the beginning of the season, that we're definitely going to win the AFC. I don't think that was necessarily in their mindset, but here we are at 13-2. The Ravens were dominant all damn season. Patriots have clinched the division. Chiefs have clinched the division. Texans have clinched the division. So there's no more division possibilities in the AFC. But in the wild card, there very much is. The Bills have clinched, but the Titans right now, who sit at 8-7, have not yet, punched their ticket to the postseason. You're still looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers at 8-7, and shockingly, the Oakland Raiders at 7-8, still technically alive in the AFC playoff picture. So the Raiders obviously need to win and get some help. Steelers need to win. Titans need to win or have the Steelers lose. There's a number of possibilities, but basically the long and short of it is those teams are still playing for something significant. The Ravens, Patriots, Chiefs, Texans, not necessarily, because although the Patriots don't necessarily want to lose because they haven't yet clinched that other first round bye in the AFC. So the Patriots do still have something, at least for the first half, to play for. Over in the NFC, things are a little more interesting because you've got three teams at 12-3, and one of them hasn't even clinched their division yet. You're looking at the San Francisco 49ers, who right now sit as the number one seed in the NFC, but the Seahawks are also right there at 11-4, so the Niners have not even clinched their own division yet. Packers have clinched the North. Saints have already clinched their division for a couple of weeks now. But all three of those teams are still rotating and still have plenty to play for in Week 17 to try to get not only that first round bye, but home field advantage throughout the NFC playoffs. So the Niners, Packers, Saints still have plenty to play for, and obviously the Seahawks. The Vikings have clinched a playoff spot. They don't really have anything else to play for other than to try to get the first wild card, which I think you would want to get, because whoever gets that first wild card in the NFC gets to play either the Eagles or the Cowboys, and that's definitely the position that you want to be in on wild card weekend. Even if you have to go to one of those two places, they're head and shoulders the most beatable NFC playoff opponents. And Eagles fans and Cowboys fans are not going to like me saying that, but what do you want me to say? There's 12-3 teams and 11-4, 10-5. What do you want me to say? These are better teams than yours. Take a little nerd tease break. See, those are the things that I get to cut out of the podcast episode, where it can just be this constant 1 hour stream of my voice. But that's the kind of stuff I get to cut out when I have the luxury of doing it as a podcast. So nobody else in the NFC is still alive for a playoff spot. Basically, it's just still to be decided between the Eagles and the Cowboys who is going to win the NFC East, head and shoulders the worst division in football this season. So with all of that in mind, let's take a look at the Week 17 slate of games. So we've got the Buffalo Bills playing host to the New York Jets. We've got Cleveland in Cincinnati. We've got the Packers in Detroit. We've got Kansas City playing host to the Chargers. Minnesota playing host to Chicago. We've got New England playing host to Miami. Tampa Bay playing host to Atlanta. New Orleans in Carolina. We've got Dallas playing host to Washington, Denver hosting Oakland, the Rams hosting Arizona, the Eagles in New York to play the Jets, the Colts in Jacksonville, Pittsburgh in Baltimore, where Baltimore is going to be resting a large number of their starters because they have literally nothing left to play for, Tennessee in Houston, and San Francisco in Seattle, which is the final regular season game of this NFL season. Back to the chat. Let's just take a peek here. I said 8-8, 10-6 with a couple lucky breaks. That's Cody talking about himself in fantasy. Hey, Justin, if it makes you feel better, regardless of what tire fire this game might be, at least it'll be better than the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Fair enough. Martin chiming in. I had the Ravens at 7-9 in the preseason. I'm sort of glad I'm wrong. Lamar is great. I mean, man, like, you can't say anything else about Lamar that hasn't already been said. I mean, he was my quarterback in that, in the Progs League where I wound up winning the championship. He was my quarterback in another league as well, where I believe I also won the championship. He was a bit of like Aaron Rodgers from a couple years ago. I called Aaron Rodgers the fantasy football cheat code because he had a few seasons there where it was just like not even close. Like he was so dominant statistically and so dominant from a fantasy perspective as a starting quarterback, where it's like having a cheat code. It really makes this easy. And that's kind of what Lamar did this season with his total number of touchdowns, the fact that he had really good ball security. I mean, he literally did everything. The guy who had Lamar in the LOA, which is another one of Cody's fantasy leagues, ended up finishing 6th out of 8. That guy is bad at fantasy football, and you should kick him out of your league just for the fact that happened. I'm not saying, but I'm saying he's bad at fantasy football. All right. So, like I said, I have done virtually no prep for this week. I don't know the numbers. I don't know anything else. Again, that's why I have this. So we're going to start with that first game there. Buffalo playing host to the New York Jets. By the way, I feel like I'm channeling my inner Cody because, like, you're going to hear my chair from time to time, which again is another luxury of doing a podcast. You really don't hear that kind of stuff on the mic, but you're probably going to hear it here. So, like I said, we're going to start in Buffalo. Buffalo taking on the Jets. Buffalo's been relatively consistent over the last month. Like the last 3 games, they've scored 17 points. 17, 17, and 17. You can't get much more consistent than that. The defense has played really well all season. They had a couple of 20-point performances here in the last couple of weeks, which has kind of lifted the number a little bit. As far as the Jets go, like, man, it feels like so long ago now. I felt like the Jets were like, holy crap, like this team has turned a corner. Like almost feels like the Jets could compete for one of those wild card spots. And since then, it's kind of fallen off a cliff a little bit. They had a good performance last week, beating the Steelers. I think it was 16-10. But like there was a while that offense was really churning along, like high 20s, low 30s in points. The defense was playing better. I mean, they gave up 42 points a couple of weeks ago. I think this is Buffalo's game. I can't see the Bills wanting to go into the playoffs with little momentum, like losing a division game like that. I think you got to go with the Bills in this spot, especially where it's at home. So we're going to take the Buffalo Bills straight up to beat the New York Jets. So now we're going to pop over to covers.com, which is what I always use for my lines. And we are going to look at the spread and total on this one. Excuse me. So right now the Bills sit as a 1.5 favorite. I mean, I like them to win, even though the Bills don't really have anything to play for. It's only a 1.5. I got no problem laying a 1.5 on the better team. So we're going to go Buffalo minus 1.5. Total in the game set at 36.5 points. That's a really good total for a team with a really good defense. And, a Jets team where the defense has played fairly well, excepting that one game where they gave up 40. I think I might have to stay under on that one. It's such a low number. It's tough for me to do that, but I think I'm going to do that. I think we're going to stick under on that total. Let's go under 36.5 points in Buffalo, New York. So Martin, let's see. For Martin's sake, for giving you scores that will actually reflect the numbers that we're looking at, why don't we go Buffalo 20 and the Jets 16? So we'll go Buffalo 20, New York 16. All right, so let's go to Cincinnati now. Cincinnati, Cleveland. Let's go into the chat. Let's see what anybody else happens to be saying here. The glorious chairs, gotta love them. Yeah, no, it's squeaky. It's not great. All right, so Cincinnati versus Cleveland. Let's see. In the last little while, is there a great degree of difference between these two teams lately? I don't really think so. I mean, Cincinnati, they put up 35 points last week, a game that typically they would have won were they not the Cincinnati Bengals on defense and allowed 38. Cleveland has not, I mean, I feel like a hater. Every time I talk about the Cleveland Browns, I legitimately feel like a hater because I'm just like, I don't see anything special about them. I really don't. I don't see anything special about them on offense. They've got some names, but they don't use them. They don't use them the way that you should use them, excepting Kareem Hunt, who they've kind of started using since they got him. Like what, like middle of the season, like, cool, I got this great new toy who obviously has a very checkered past, but man, can he perform on the football field? And I feel like they've used Kareem Hunt pretty well since he's come back from his suspension in, I think it was week 10 when he came back. So, but outside of that, like, are they using Odell Beckham the way they should? I don't think so. Are they using Jarvis Landry the way they should? I don't think so. Is there anything special about that defense? I don't think so. Honestly, these two teams are a lot more comparable than especially Browns fans would want to admit. I mean, they're both giving up 26 points or more over the last month on defense. Neither one of them is scoring more than 22 points per game over the last month. So, in a results-based business, I don't see a great degree of difference between these two teams. Cleveland's the favorite in this game. I got no problem taking Cincinnati here as a home dog. I mean, look, we talk about the rule of four, which the rule of four played itself out again last week. And if you're not familiar with what the rule of four is, the rule of four, which is one of the like most solid like money in the bank bets that you could make in Vegas, says that at least four betting underdogs will win their game straight up in any given week. And so far on the season, that is, I think, 13-3 in weeks. Like, there's been 13 of the 16 weeks where at least four betting underdogs have won their game straight up. It's something that I kind of clued into 4 or 5 years ago, and I've been pumping its tires ever since. I got no problem taking Cincinnati here as a home underdog. I'm going to take the Bengals to win this game. They've got weapons on offense now, and you know what, Cleveland, I guess I just don't like you. I don't know what else to say. So in a division matchup too, I'm going to take the home team here. I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals at home to upset the Cleveland Browns. So now we're back on covers. We're going to take a peek here. All right. I'm liking the way that looks. Right now, Cincinnati's a 2.5-point dog at home. I like them to win. I'm more than happy to say thank you. I will take those 2.5 points. Cincinnati plus 2.5. Total in the game set at 43.5 points. I don't really trust either of these defenses right now, and I think you got to be a little loco if you do yourself. So 43.5, it's a pretty low number. I kind of like the over in that one. I think we're going to go over 43.5 points in Cincinnati, Cleveland. So why don't we go Cincinnati 27, Cleveland 20. That's where I think we'll go with that one. 27-20, Cincinnati picks up the upset victory. So let's go back in here, see if we got anything in the chat. Let's see. Martin, thank you, Justin. Appreciate the scores. I chose Buffalo also. Great. I feel like Cleveland will be fine with some kind of upgrade at coach. Freddie Kitchens is definitely in way over his head. I 100% agree. I'm not a huge Freddie Kitchens fan. I think he came in with a certain degree of hype and certainly has the weapons. I mean, he definitely has the weapons to do so. But I mean, I don't see anything really special about the way he coaches football. It's another thing about Cleveland. It's like, I don't know. Maybe there's just that Browns stank on it. I don't know. Martin, a lot of people picking the Bengals, not me. I can totally understand if you don't want to pick the Bengals. It's tough for me to do so myself. Chad, hello from Chad from Regina, Saskatchewan, the Gine. I love Regina. Don't forget the weather. It will affect the game. This is very true, Chad. And like I say, I don't typically I've done none of the research that I typically do. So take most of these picks like you should every week, but especially this week, take the picks with a grain of salt. Bengals also have the number one pick locked up anyway. Why not send Dalton off with a win as they try to trade him in the offseason? Excellent point there, Cody. Thank you very much. You're all contributing to my success in this show, and I genuinely appreciate it. All right. So, time to go to our next game, which is Green Bay in Detroit to take on the Lions. So, obviously, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I'm very happy that they proved me wrong. They proved me wrong last week because I took the Vikings to win that game last week and put the Vikings in the driver's seat to win the division. Instead, Green Bay went out, had a very solid performance, won that football game, won the NFC North. I feel great about that. Green Bay guaranteed to go back to the playoffs and getting that home playoff game. And look, right now at 12-3, the Packers are sitting in prime position to get one of those two bye weeks through wild card weekend, which I mean would be fantastic because now you're pushing your home playoff game potentially in Lambeau Field later and later, like, into January basically. And there is no team there in the NFC. There is no team that wants to go to Lambeau Field in January and have to play Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. You just don't want to have to do it. I think Green Bay is going to want to obviously have a great showing here against an inferior opponent. They're 5-0 in the division so far this season. They have a chance at a perfect division record. I think that's what they do. I'm not giving Detroit a whole lot of credit for much of anything that they've done this season. Like lately, even in the last 4 weeks, they're not playing very well on offense. The defense has basically caved in on itself. It's nice to see Kerryon Johnson be back and seem like he's healthy, but we're Green Bay all day in this one. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers in Detroit to beat the Lions. I think this should pretty well be a layup. If I was doing a platinum and gold, silver, and bronze picks this week, which I'm not because I just didn't have the time to prepare it, this game would 100% be in there somewhere. Green Bay in Detroit. Let's take the Pack. I don't think I'm being transgressive in making that move. On the line, Packers are 12.5-point favorites. Wow. So 12.5-point favorites on the road, division matchup. Boy, that's kind of a tough one for me. The defense is playing great in the last month. They have not given up more than 15 points to any opponent in the last month. The offense is humming along, doing fine. I mean, I think they could very well cover this number. Boy, that's a tough one. It's under 2 touchdowns. I think I'm going to lay that. I think we got to lay that number there. We're going to go Green Bay minus the 12.5 points. Total in the game, 43.5. I think the Packers put up an adequate number of points here. Too much to not enough. That's a fairly low number. I don't know what Detroit's going to get on the offensive side because they haven't exactly been playing great. I don't think this number flies over, but it's low enough that I think I got to take the over. Let's go over 43.5 points in Green Bay, Detroit. Let's go Green Bay 30, Detroit 14. Let's go 30-14, which will give us our over. 30-14 Pack. Let's pop back into the chat here, see if anybody's saying anything. Let's see. Green Bay will win unless they really blow. I love the wordplay that you can do with Detroit's quarterback's name. It's fantastic. Oh, Matt, the NFL fanatic, he is in here. Matt is in this thing. Thanks for the shout out, Justin. I'm Prager. Oh, you're Prager in the Progs League. Okay, there you go. Fantastic. Chad comes in again. Rain for game time in Baltimore, Cincinnati. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Carolina, Buffalo, and New York. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much for that information, Chad. I appreciate that. Does that impact the over in anything? It's close. I'm going to keep the picks that I have so far, but thank you for the information there, Chad, about the rain. So I'll take that into consideration in the future picks. Fantastic. See, Canadians help each other out. So thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. All right, let's go back here. Kansas City and the Chargers. This one very simple for me. Chargers have nothing to play for but pride. Chiefs, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs still have that possibility to get up there and get one of those first round buys. They would need to win, and I think they would need the Patriots to lose. I think there's a couple of tiebreaker things in there because the Patriots certainly have not clinched that yet. So the Chiefs have plenty to play for in this game. The Chargers don't have anything to play for but pride. The Chargers have not won a division game yet this season. They're 0-5. That's interesting. Do I think that team is bad enough that they don't win a division game? It's awfully tough to leave to the last game of the season to say whether you're going to win a division game or not. I don't think I can bet against the Chiefs there, though. Like Patrick Mahomes still with something to play for is kind of scary. And I mean, the Chargers have been the bane of my existence all damn season. I think I got to go with the Chiefs here. Let's take Kansas City at home. Obviously, it's a good spot for them where they're in their own building. Let's take Kansas City at home to beat the Chargers. Let's go here on the line. Let's see. Kansas City laying 9 points as a home favorite. The number has crawled up from -7.5 to -9, while the total has gone down. Oh boy. Chiefs haven't exactly been lighting the world on fire at home, against the spread anyway. Let's see. Chargers are 3-3-1 against the spread on the road. Chiefs are 7-3 in the last 10 against the spread anyway. Man, I don't like laying that many points. I'm going to say that right now because I feel like this is one of those games where the Chiefs are going to say, "I'm going to screw you just one more time this season," and cover that number. Not necessarily win outright, but cover that number. Boy, you know what? Let's take the Chargers +9. I just think that's too many points. There's something in my gut that just says Chargers +9, and I'm sure they will look forward to screwing me just one more time. So 45.5 points is our total in this one. 45.5. Let's see. Do we have rain in LA or in Kansas City rather? Doesn't look like we do. Let's see. Chiefs, one of the highest scoring teams in the league over the last month. Chargers are putting up more than 20 a game. I think we got to lean on the over there one more time. We're going to go over 45.5 points in Kansas City, LA, but we got to keep the Chargers within +9. So let's go. Chiefs 27. Chiefs 27, Chargers 21. That gives us 48. So we will go 27-21 in favor of Kansas City. Chargers cover +9, and it goes over the total. Let's come back into the chat here. Are any records going to be broken with any of the games this week? Asks Chad. Good question. Boy. Which ones in the chat, if you can think of them right off the top, or you can do the research for me while I'm doing the picks, which ones are close? Are there some records that are like close, like very like real close, that even as either a season record or an all-time record or something like that, that's like, an average game or a little bit above average game will break it? If you can think of any off the top of your head, if you can ask me specific ones, I can see if I can let you know whether I think any will or won't. All right, let's go to the next game. Minnesota in Chicago taking on the Bears. Another division matchup. Bears only playing for pride. Minnesota can't improve their position, I don't think. Well, I guess technically they could, because if they go to 11-5 and the Seahawks lose down to 11-5, I don't know the specifics of Don't know the specifics there, whether the Vikings could jump up to be that team to play the either the Eagles or the Cowboys in wild card weekend. So I don't know whether they could or not. If we assume that they can, obviously this is a game they're not going to want to lose. Bears, like I mentioned, playing for pride at 7-8. The Bears have the potential to finish at 8-8, which would be at least something this season. I just don't think I can trust the Bears offense, man. That offense is not good. Like, they had a couple of okay games there a couple of weeks ago, but the last 2 weeks they've scored a total of 16 points, and the defense isn't really playing well enough anymore to justify how bad the offense is. So, yeah, tough for me to bet against Minnesota in this spot. Their defense is playing pretty well, save for that 37-point stinker a month ago. So, like, one high-scoring game in the last month. So I think I got to take Minnesota there. I think we will ride with the Vikings. I mean, they're at home as well. It is a division game, but I'm not really feeling an upset there. So let's take Minnesota at home to beat Chicago. Let's take a look here on the line. Vikings are 3.5-point dogs. Is that true? Minnesota. I mean, that line opened at Minnesota -7. Is that all from Dalvin Cook, or have they announced that they're resting people? Have I missed some of this stuff? Okay, so all right, so show more. Let's see, a little more info there. So Adam Thielen is going to be rested. Doesn't look like he's going to play. Let's see, Jermaine Kearse. Kendricks is not going to play at linebacker. Yeah, Dalvin Cook's not playing. But, like, man, do they need some of these guys to beat the Bears? I mean, look, your Prince Amukamara is probably not going to play. Hicks is definitely not playing. Gabriel is not playing. Danny Trevathan obviously is on IR. Roquan Smith, big pieces of that defense. So, I mean, just because Thielen and Cook are not playing, man, does that justify how much that line has moved? Let's see. Ravens. Okay. Vikings just need to put some bodies out there on defense. That's enough to stop the Bears offense. That's kind of how I'm feeling too. I think if you're going to give me head and shoulders the better football team in their own building as a 3.5-point dog, I mean, obviously I'm still taking them to win. So thanks very much. I'll take the Minnesota plus 3.5. But yikes, that is some significant friggin' line movement there. Wow. All right. Total in the game set at 36 points. I mean, would it surprise anybody if this game finished 10-7 or like 13-10 or something like that? I think I got to stick under on this, especially if you're not going to have those weapons out there for the one offense that's good. And obviously the Vikings defense has played fairly well and doesn't want to get embarrassed against the division opponent the last week of the season. So I think I'm going to stick under on that crazy low number. We're going to stay under 36 points. And I think that's about where I'm going to fall on the final score. Let's go like 14-10 Vikings. So Vikings win straight up. Obviously, the Vikings going to cover that plus 3.5, and the game stays under the 36 points. We'll go 14-10 Minnesota. Wow, that is really, I guess, crazy aggressive line movement. Now, as Matt says in the chat, Vikings are likely going to rest most of their starters. Don't think they really need their starters to beat the Bears. So we'll be more than happy to take those plus 3.5. Cody chimed in. Ravens need 93 rush yards to break the NFL record for team rush yards in a season, and with 127 rush yards and 56 pass yards, become the first team to average 200 and 200 in a season. I think they will do both of those things. Because it's Gus Edwards that's starting at running back for them this week, I believe, because obviously, Mark Ingram had that tweak last week, I believe it was, so he's not going to be playing. Gus Edwards is a more than capable running back. I've seen really good things out of Gus Edwards in the past. I think the Ravens probably do both of those things. I think they break that NFL record for team rush yards, and I think they do get the averaging 200 and 200, which is unbelievable to average 200 rush yards across a whole season. I mean, that's phenomenal. So yes, I do think the Ravens get that. All right, let's move on. New England play at home playing against Miami. I mean, whoops. Did the camera catch that? That's fantastic. New England still has stuff to play for. They're still playing for a first round bye. It's the Miami Dolphins. I don't think this is going to happen. So we are going to take the New England Patriots, and we're not even really going to think about it all that much. Patriots going to beat the Dolphins, even though I can say, as far as Miami is concerned, they are one of the better offenses in football over the last month. They're scoring 29 points a game. The problem is they're giving up 31. So I can't trust that defense, even though New England's offense hasn't really been much to write home about for most of the season. But even in the last couple of weeks, I just don't think I can take Miami with a defense that poor to beat the Patriots when the Patriots still have something to play for. So that's the long and short of the thought that I'm going to put into that game. On the line, Patriots are 17-point favorites. Okay. All right. So no. No. Wow, this pick was done quickly. Miami plus 17 points, because that's just stupid. Total's 44.5. It's kind of an interesting total. Again, with Miami's defense as bad as it is, boy, let's see. 425. I think I got to go over on that one. I could see that game hitting 50 points. So, yeah, why don't we do that? We're going to go over the 44.5 points in Miami, New England. Let's go. Let's go New England 27. Let's go 27-20 again, like we did in Cincinnati, Cleveland. So we're going to go 27-20, which fulfills our over, and Miami covers plus 17, because that's, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, like it's not college football. And yes, do those numbers get covered in the NFL? Yes, absolutely. But it's not college. Those shouldn't be the actual spreads themselves. It's just not going to work that way. So yeah, I think taking plus 17, I would if I was betting that, like if I was a better, like a really strong better, I would max bomb that Miami plus 17. So do with that information what you will. Chad comes in again. Both quarterbacks from Miami and New England are friends, so it won't be a blowout. Respect for each other, but New England will win. I think that very succinctly sums up how I feel about that football game. So let's move on. Tampa Bay playing host to Atlanta, and man, I thought Tampa Bay would have a better showing than they did last week, and I understand that, like, obviously the you've pulled chunks out of that offense with, you know, your top two wide receivers being totally gone. Tampa Bay defensively have played relatively well over the last little while, certainly well for them. They're only giving up 22 points a game on average over the last month. So they've done some better things defensively, and hopefully that's something that they can carry with them into next season. The Atlanta Falcons have been one of the most impressive stories for me over the last month in the NFL. The offense has turned it in, the defense playing significantly better, and they rewarded head coach Dan Quinn as well as their general manager by retaining them for next season. I would be really interested to know how Chris Carter, Hatbox Kid, be really interested as a Falcons fan to know how he feels about that. So two offenses, obviously, that are very high octane, two defenses that have been questionable for most of the season, even though they're playing better lately. I think this might be a game where I might have to defer to taking the points. I do legitimately think the Atlanta Falcons are the better football team here. I think I got to go with Atlanta. I think Atlanta wins this game outright, ends the season on a very strong note. Hopefully, they can carry that over into next year. I mean, when you get Calvin Ridley back healthy, when you get the running back situation back healthy, like bring in one free agent piece on defense, and I think this team could potentially be a contender, at least in the NFC for like a wild card spot. So let's take the Falcons. Let's take the Falcons on the road in Tampa Bay to upset the Tampa Bay Bucks. So obviously on the line, Atlanta's the underdog. It's only by a single point, but since I like them to win, let's take Atlanta plus the single point. I keep reaching for my glasses. I don't know why. Total in the game set at 47.5 points. I think in true fashion, these two offenses are going to shine, and the defenses maybe not so much. So 47.5, relatively high, but I do feel okay taking the over in that one. So let's go over 47.5 points in Atlanta, Tampa Bay. Let's go Atlanta 30. Let's go Tampa Bay 24. So we're going to go 30-24 for the Falcons. So the over will hit there relatively comfortably. Let's go back into the chat here, see if anybody's saying that. Tampa Bay, hot game, 27 to 30 degrees. Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the offenses are just going to play well in that football game. Let's see. Matt, Jameis can be the first quarterback ever in the 30 touchdown, 30 interception club. Is that true? I don't have the stats right in front of me. Is that a thing? 30 touchdowns and 30 picks? How many picks does he have? How many picks does Jameis Winston have right now? Someone answer that for me in the chat, because that's ridiculous. If that's true, like I want it. I want to see it. I want him to be, has to be the only member of that club. There can't be another quarterback that has a 30 touchdown, 30 interception season. That can't be a thing that's happened. If it is, it's hilarious. But do you have 28? Oh my God. Jameis, what's up? Too many crab legs. Too many. You're trying to eat too many W's. You're throwing too many INTs. Woof. That's awful. Holy crap. I hope he gets there. So, question, will Jameis Winston be in the 30-30 club? Yes, he will, because I want to see it. Favre has 29, which is the record. Not for much longer. I think Jameis Winston gets that. Falcons defense, secondary. Get ready, because very clearly Jameis is going to throw a couple up. Holy cow. All right. So, yeah, we're taking Atlanta there in the upset. New Orleans in Carolina. So, obviously, New Orleans still has stuff to play for. They've still got an opportunity to try to make the NFC playoffs go through New Orleans, which is something that obviously they want to do because there may be no greater home field advantage in the NFC than New Orleans playing in New Orleans. Man, interesting story with Antonio Brown there a day or two ago, where he took a tryout, or he was there to work out with the Saints. I don't know why they do it. He's going to go on the commissioner's exempt list if he signs with anybody. So, I don't know. In any case, hopefully that doesn't send more bad luck towards the New Orleans Saints. If Green Bay is not going to win the NFC, I want New Orleans to win the NFC. So that's my bias showing there for you folks. So it's New Orleans in Carolina. Panthers have been one of the disappointments of the season for me. And Christian McCaffrey started off the season so hot. Feel like he's kind of tapered off a little bit. Obviously still having good games, but I don't think he's in the MVP conversation as firmly as I thought he was through like the first half of the season. So let's see how they've been playing lately. Carolina offensively, really nothing special over the last month. Defense has absolutely cratered. So, I mean, geez, the Saints was something to play for. They're averaging 36 points a game in the last month. I'm not going to give too much more thought to that. Let's take the Saints on the road in Carolina. Pardon me for picking my nose. I had an itch. Let's take the Saints in Carolina. I don't think that defense is capable of stopping Drew Brees or Teddy Bridgewater, whoever would happen to play in that game, or Taysom Hill. What the hell? Throw Taysom Hill out there at quarterback, which, by the way, when Drew Brees retires, I desperately hope, like if the Saints win the Super Bowl I hope Breeze retires, because there's no, you can't go out any higher than that. So I hope he retires. I hope they retain Teddy Bridgewater, because I would love to see Teddy Bridgewater as the long-term starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, and keep Taysom Hill there. Why not keep like the ultimate Swiss Army knife on your roster? I don't know why you would not pay him the money to keep him around. So hopefully that's what they do. Let's take the Saints in Carolina to beat the Panthers. Let's see what we're looking at here against the spread. Saints are 13.5-point favorites. Wow. That's understandable. Definitely understand that one. Total's only 45. That's a pretty middling number there. Oh boy. 13.5 points. I mean, can I trust that defense to keep one of the best offenses in football, if not the best offense in football right now? Can you keep that within 2 touchdowns? Nah. Let's take the Saints to cover that number, which again, for the record, minus 13.5. We're going to take the Saints to cover that one. 45 points. I think this thing goes over. This feels like one of those games where maybe the Saints can come close to covering that number on their own with something still to play for. So we're going to go over 45 points. We had a lot of overs here. That's 3 straight overs and 6 out of 8. But I think we'll see a lot of points this weekend, because why not? It's the late Christmas gift to all of us tomorrow. So we're going to go over 45 points in that one. Let's go Saints 35, Panthers 20. So we'll go 35-20 in that one. Over hits very comfortably, and Saints cover the minus 13.5. Come back into the chat here. Oh, plenty going by there. Only reason I won a lot of my games, to be honest, getting that 40 points was nice. Oh, Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, absolutely. Saints blew out the Colts. Colts blew out Greer, enough said. Carolina game, some rain, pick wise. Fair enough. Michael Thomas has 116 more receptions than the Saints' next closest wide receiver. That's insanity. That is unbelievable. Like, Michael Thomas has been, like, there's been nobody like him in the NFL this year. Just absolutely nobody like him. Like, when I think of like great possession receivers, obviously Larry Fitzgerald. I remember TJ Houshmandzadeh from back in the day was always like my PPR best kept secret, because he was such a great possession receiver and he got so many touches, so many catches. But man, there's been nobody like Michael Thomas this year. And I don't think the Panthers have anybody that can cover him, to be honest. And if the Saints play their starters and keep their starters in, we'll stick with it. But yeah, even in the rain, even in what might be a little bit of bad weather, boy, I think might be worth a top 5 fantasy pick next year. He might be worth first overall. Like, if you're playing in a full PPR league, especially if it's still Drew Brees, like if Drew Brees says, you know what, saddle up, Cowboy, we're going to take one more run at this thing, you couldn't go wrong, I don't think, taking Michael Thomas first overall, even over the stud running backs that should be in that spot and have earned being in that spot. If you're playing in a PPR league, it would be tough for me to not take Michael Thomas first overall. All right, we are halfway home, ladies and gentlemen. That is 8 of the 16 games. I'm just going to set my pad down here just for a minute. We're going to take a couple of long sips of water. I'm just going to take a little break here. I've been live for just about an hour. Actually, I'm going to run downstairs for a second. I got a fire going because I'm in Canada and it's cold. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run downstairs, stoke my fire up, come back. We'll do the second half of these games. Such a weird noise. I do see there's been consistently about 13, 14, 15 of you in the chat watching live. Thank you so much for coming by and checking out the show. If you've never watched before, consider giving me a sub. I do this. I'll continue obviously doing this through the playoffs, but the episodes will be much more coordinated like they typically are. You know what? Again, just kind of struggled for time this week. I'm going to run downstairs and check my fire, and I will be right back. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves. All right. Hope there wasn't too many fights. I'm back. Before we continue with our picks, I just have to show you something I got for Christmas from a friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine. We do a gift exchange every year, and she got me something NFL related. I basically told her, like, I like the Packers, I like the Montreal Canadiens. Go into this sports place and pick something for me. So what she did was she found about the most unique Packers thing in this place that she could possibly find, which is a Green Bay Packers tiki. And as soon as I opened it, I became a 10-year-old again, because my first reaction to looking at this was, yo, this tiki is dope. And I yelled it. I literally yelled it out loud. I just, yo, this tiki is dope. And the most dope thing about it is that it lights up. This is legitimately probably one of the 5 greatest Christmas presents I've ever received. I love this thing. I cannot tell you how much I love this thing. Was legitimately such a surprise, and it was the absolute best. She doesn't watch my show, but Brittany, if you're watching, thank you. I love you. So that is actually going to go right here and watch over us and hopefully give us good luck for the rest of the picks. Let's see in the chat. Bold prediction: Saints beat the Packers in the playoffs. Damn you, Cody. That's you getting back at me. I know it is. Regardless of where the game is at, they could. I mean, man, that Saints team is dangerous, man. The Packers defense, like I said, has played really well lately, but that Saints team is good with a capital G. So it is entirely possible. If that was the NFC Championship game, I'm there for it. I absolutely love it. All right. So let's go to our next football game, which is the Dallas Cowboys at home taking on the Washington Redskins. And this is a very, very, very simple equation here. This is a football game that the Dallas Cowboys cannot afford to lose, whether it was on their home field or not. The Redskins are scoring points, but their defense is porous. They've been giving up 30 points a game over the last month. Dallas offense, defense has been well, first of all, it's been up and down and inconsistent all season, but it's basically playing level. I don't see that level play from the Washington Redskins, and it is a matter of necessity. It is do or die for the Dallas Cowboys. They can put themselves in a position where they win this game, they at least have a shot at winning the division. They can hope that the New York Giants do their job. Both of those games kick off at the same time. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they are at home. I am going to take them to win this game, and that's all they can do. This is literally the game for Jason Garrett's job. Because if Jason Garrett hauls this inconsistent team that moves the ball really well, but does not turn that offense into points on the board with near the consistency that they could, even if they were 5% better, this would be one of the highest scoring teams in the league based on what they do with yardage. So this could be the game for Jason Garrett's job. If he hauls this team into the playoffs, and especially if they, heaven forbid, win a home playoff game, that could save Jason Garrett's job for another season. That's a controversial opinion, I think, because everybody wants to take Jason Garrett's job away from him, which I understand. But I got to take Dallas in this one because they don't have there's no other option for them. Let's take the Dallas Cowboys to beat Washington. So, what do we have here? On the line, Dallas is laying 13 points. in the immortal words of Bridgewater's finest himself, get fucked. There's no way I'm laying 13 points on Dallas. Sorry. Washington plus 13. And it's no credit to the Redskins, certainly not on the defensive side, but I think you have to be high to lay that many points on the Dallas Cowboys with how inconsistent they have played all season. And it's worth pointing out, these two teams, despite the fact that one of them is still playing for the playoffs and one of them is not, these two teams have the exact same against the spread record in the last 10 games. And Washington, 4-3 against the spread on the road, which is the same against the spread record as the Cowboys have at home. We're going to take the Redskins plus 13. Total in the game set at 45.5 points. So I am going to very sneakily pause for time as I scroll back up to try and find Chad's comment about whether there will be rain or not. It doesn't look like there will be for that game. But man, 45.5 points. It's such a middling number that it's really tough to say one way or the other. But you can say, especially over the last 2 weeks, this Redskins offense is playing pretty well, and the defense is playing horrendously. So we could very well see a ton of points on the board here. I think I got a skew on the over here. And of course, with a reminder, I did really poorly in the totals last week. But I think we're going to go over our 45.5 points. Let's go Dallas. Let's go Dallas 25. Let's go Dallas 24, Washington 23. We're really going to make this a sweat for Cowboys fans. 24-23. So obviously the Washington plus 13 is a walk in the park, and our 47 points just get up over the 45.5 point total. That's where we'll go with that one. Single point victory, very fitting for these Dallas Cowboys. Let's see. Y'all know how Stephen A is with Cowboys. You know what? I hate Stephen A. Smith. I'm just going to say it. I think he's a fraud and a hack, but that's just me. That's how I am with Aaron Rodgers fans. Oh, nothing against him as a player, but the hype he gets drives me insane. I can totally buy that. I get it, because even he's my quarterback. He's the quarterback for my team, and I don't think he's as good, at least not in the last couple of years, which obviously has been somewhat injury related, but still, some people talk about him like he's the greatest of all time. I was really worried that maybe somehow he'd make that the NFL 100 and be like, I can't defend that as a Packers fan. If he wins a second Super Bowl, sure. But right now, he's only got one. Some of his metrics say he's one of the greatest of all time. He's my quarterback. I would not want to have other quarterbacks in this league. I'm more than happy that my team has Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, but I totally understand that fatigue. Chad, is the QB for Dallas not 100%? I don't know. I don't really know. Dak has had moments where he's looked phenomenal for Dallas, and then he's had moments where it's like, you're making mistakes that somebody who's been in the league for this long should not be making. So I can understand Jerry Jones's hesitancy to pay that guy his money. At the same time, pay him his money. Pay him his money for what he's probably going to be in 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years, which is probably a top 5-10 quarterback in the NFL if he's not already there. No McLaurin for Washington. Oh, that's good information to have. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. All right, let's move on. So we are taking Dallas, obviously, but I'm only giving them a 1-point win. Denver playing host to the Oakland Raiders. Now, look, obviously, Oakland's path to that wild card spot is ridiculous. Now, we haven't talked about the Pittsburgh game and we haven't talked about the Tennessee game yet, so we have to play this as if the Raiders are still alive at this point. So the Raiders, they've still got stuff to play for here, and granted, Denver does not. Denver is at home. Denver is a fairly good home team, and that is a fairly difficult place to play in Denver. Now, offensively, they've been okay lately. They did have that 1 3-point stinker a couple of weeks ago. If you take a look at the Raiders, offensively, not really. Defensively, especially a couple of weeks ago, really, really not. They're one of only, a handful of teams that's giving up 30 points or more per game right now. It's another one where I just don't think I can trust that defense, and where Denver can't get the first overall pick anymore since that's been locked up. I think I got to skew with the home team here. Even though Oakland's got plenty to play for, I think we're going to lean on Denver in this one. Let's take the Broncos at home to end the Raiders' playoff hopes, slim as they may be. Let's take Denver to beat Oakland. Now, let's take a look here. Against the spread, where are you? Denver and Oakland. There it is. So Denver's laying 3.5 points at home as the favorite. 3.5 points. It's a relatively small price to pay. And also, the Broncos have been really good against the spread at home this year. And actually, against the spread, this team has performed quite well. The last 10, they're 7-3. They're 5-2 at home. The Raiders, not so much, under 500 on the road against the spread. They're only 2-5 straight up on the road. I think Denver probably covers that number. So we are going to lay those 3.5 points on the Broncos. Total in the game set at 40.5. Very low total. Totally understand that. It's cold, -4 plus some wind for Denver. Going to get a little colder as the game goes on. Totally understand that. I'm loving Chad in the chat. I'm loving the fact that you're like my weather guy in this. I love it. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, boy, 40.5 points. You know what? I think Denver's defense balls out in this game. We're going to stick under on that. Very low total. Not the greatest under I've ever played, but I think we're going to stick with the under here. Let's go Denver 16, Oakland 10. So we're only going to get to 26 points there. Pretty comfortable under, and Denver's going to cover those -3.5 points. Low scoring game as it gets colder. All right, Rams and Cardinals. Rams, the home team here. Let's see how they're playing lately. Rams scoring plenty of points lately. Defense hasn't looked great in the last couple of weeks. 78 points combined against in their last 2 games. But, I mean, the offense has been chugging along pretty well lately. 29 points a game over the last month. Arizona, kind of just middle of the pack, 22 points scored, 24 points against on average over the last month. Sip of my cold nerd teas. I don't know if that's a game that I can necessarily look at like it's an upset pick, but boy, I mean, maybe playing with revenge. Let's see. The Rams are 6.5 point favorites. Do I like that line? Would I like? You know what? We're gonna take a hard left turn here. I'm gonna take the upset. Arizona on the road in LA to beat the Rams. Arizona's played fairly well on the road this year. They've won 3 of their 7 games. They got a chance to go 500 on the road, which would be a solid performance for them. Rams have nothing left to play for. They can afford to sort of rest their fairly hobbled up guys because, I mean, they're playing for nothing but pride, really, and pride in a lost season when you thought you were going to be a playoff team. I think this is at least a little bit motivated by the fact that I want to take the points there at Arizona plus 6.5, but I'm actually going to go the upset there. Let's take Arizona on the road in Los Angeles to beat the Rams. So obviously we are going to take the 6.5 points on the Cardinals. Total in the game set at 45 points. I think we'll lean under on that one just because Arizona's defense has been playing better than it has been for the majority of the season. The Rams on the defensive side have been playing fairly well as well. If we assume the Rams maybe rest a couple of starters, don't really want to just throw them out there in a meaningless game in week 17 to get them injured, let's stick with the under. We're going to go under 45 points in Arizona, Los Angeles. Let's go Rams. We're going to go, because subconsciously I'm like, Rams are going to win the game. Let's go Arizona 21. Let's go Rams 16. So we're going to go 21-16 for Arizona. Under hits on the 45. Arizona covers plus 6.5 by winning the game outright. Matt is completely punching me in the nuts in this game. Actually, most people are, judging by the chat. I have no fear of upset picks, so that's why I kind of laugh about it. Matt with a tremendous statistic here. This is fantastic. In the Sean McVay era, the Rams have outscored the Cardinals 164-32. Wow, that's terrifying. That's those numbers are gross. Cardinals still win. You know what? Screw it. It's week 17. It's been a relatively bad season for me. This has been a down season compared to a lot of other seasons that I've had doing this. Is no fear. Hashtag no regrets. We're gonna take the Rams to win that game outright. But Matt, that's a tremendous statistic, and I that is mint. That is fantastic. All right. So we're going to take that upset pick despite probably the better judgment of anyone with multiple brain cells, but we're going to take the Rams to lose that game. So Philly and New York. This is another game that obviously means a ton, not necessarily for New York, but means a ton for Philadelphia, because if the Eagles win, they're in, they win the division, they go to the playoffs. Look, I'm on record saying that virtually nobody in the NFC East deserves to go to the playoffs this year. I don't think Dallas has played well enough to be there, and I don't think the Eagles have played well enough to be there either. So, if we're in a situation where somebody's got to go, somebody's got to win. I do have Dallas winning, obviously, earlier in the week, and this would be, I would have to think, a relatively popular. Although I was going to say relatively popular upset pick, although only 12% of people on the Yahoo Pick'em game are taking the Giants in the upset there. Philly lately playing fairly well, scoring 27 points a game, only giving up 23, so the defense playing relatively well. Had a 37-point stinker about a month ago, but that's all right. Giants are also scoring 27 points a game, so we're looking at is this Eli Manning's swan song? Most people are assuming that it is. The last couple of weeks, the Giants offensively have been on fire. 41 points and 36 points in their last 2 weeks, basically since turning back to Eli Manning. I'm going to let this game shape my narrative for the NFC East. Again, with the caveat that I don't think anybody in that division deserves to go to the playoffs. But since somebody has to, let's take the Cowboys to be the one to go to the playoffs. I'm going to take the upset here again. 2 straight picks where we are taking the upset play. So I'm letting my feelings about that division dictate who wins this game, which is probably not a good decision. Most everybody is on Philadelphia in this game. So my last 2 upset picks are being picked by a combined 22% of people, which is not a strong number at all. At least the Atlanta upset was like 48-52. So, I mean, it was right there. But I'm going to take the Giants. Let's do it. Take the Giants at home. They end their season on a high note. The Eagles, a team I don't think deserves to go to the playoffs, they don't get to go to the playoffs because I got the Dallas Cowboys winning that division. Let's take the Giants at home to beat the Eagles. All right, let's see. On the line, where are we here? Giants and Eagles. Hello, Giants and Eagles. Where is our number? There it is. So right now, the Eagles are laying 4 points as a road favorite. And actually, according to covers, it's about 52-48 in terms of against the spread. So 48% of people taking the New York Giants on the +4. I think where they're at home, well, I mean, I like them to win. This may be a hedge situation one way or the other. So I think this is going to be another pretty close scoring game, but obviously I like the Giants to win. Oh no, is my pen giving out? My pen might be giving out. That's not good at all. Take a little pen break. There we go. All right. New York Giants +4, since I like them, or I'm taking them at least, to win outright. Total in the game set at 45. Okay. Another one of those middling numbers. +6 at game time. But let's see. Rain for that win, for that game. Let's go relatively low scoring in that one, maybe, because weather, I think, will have something of an impact. So let's take the under in that one. We're going to stick, that's actually a third straight under. So apparently I'm trying to self correct from all the overs earlier in the week. Maybe this is why I've been so bad at these totals this year. We're going to stick under 45 points in Philadelphia, New York. Let's take the Giants here. Um, let's go 20-17. Let's take a field. You know what? What the hell? Let's take a field goal in overtime. Let's have some fun with this thing. We're going to go 20-17 in overtime. The Giants break the hearts of the Philadelphia Eagles and their playoff hopes. Because, too bad. And just for clarity's sake, when I say I don't think anybody from the NFC East deserves to go to the playoffs, I legitimately mean that. I would love to see all of the professional sports that take, these multiple teams into the playoffs. Just give me best on best. Like in the NHL, this is exactly what I want to have happen, regardless of whether the teams are in the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference. For the playoffs, give me 1-16. The first, 1, 2, 3, 4, the first however many teams can be the division winners. That's perfectly fine. They won their divisions. They deserve that. But just give me the 16 best teams. In football, just give me the 12 best teams, 1 through 12, best on best. Like, just give me the best teams. That's what I want to see in the playoffs. If that was the case, nobody from this division would be going to the playoffs, and I would not lose a wink of sleep over that. I want to see best on best come playoff time. That's just me, not necessarily the most popular opinion. So that's where that is coming from when I say that nobody in this division deserves to go to the playoffs, just for the sake of clarity. Okay, let's pop back into the chat. Let's see. Wouldn't be surprised if the Giants won, to be honest. I'll be rooting for the G-men. The Eagles are so inconsistent. I'm taking Philly. Wentz seems to win close games regardless lately. Ride the wave. That was from Cody. Jones started last week, by the way. Yeah, that's right. They have gone back to Daniel Jones, haven't they? Chad, remember Philadelphia won the Super Bowl? Yeah, they did. They did. They absolutely did. I feel a flashback. Rain, some wind for that game. How fitting for the NFC East would it be for the Eagles to back in at 500, getting in with a Washington loss? That's true. Might be saving Shermer's job, too. That's possible. I'd take the plus regardless. Yeah, it'll be interesting how many confidence points you give your underdogs. See, I'm somebody that, so in my pick'em pool, like I mentioned before, it's a confidence point system. Part of my problem is I give my underdogs very few confidence points, which actually I should start ratcheting up a little bit rather than giving them the fewest possible. Just knock them up into that next tier, because that when you hit the underdog play that very few other people hit, that's when you really make a difference in the standings. So that's something that I've got to change for my game and the way that I play in the pick'em pools. But yeah, Martin, that's a great point. All right, let's go to our next game. The Indianapolis Colts in Jacksonville taking on the Jags. Minshew Mania has firmly retaken control in Jacksonville, and I could not be happier about that. I feel like he never should have lost the job to begin with. I understand it. You're paying Nick Foles all that money. I think we have come to the conclusion finally that Nick Foles is not necessarily the answer there. It's depressing, not depressing. Depressing is the wrong word there. It's unfortunate to me that the Indianapolis Colts don't have a chance to go to the playoffs. I feel like maybe that's a team that could upset a Houston or even make it like a Kansas City on Wild Card Weekend. I feel like the Colts just kind of have that little bit of magic about them, and I'm a big believer in Jacoby Brissett and a big believer in that Colts team. Part of that could be the influence of Pat McAfee, but whatever. So it's unfortunate to me that they don't have a shot at making the playoffs. The Jags are about where I thought they would be. I'm not a believer in that franchise nor in its ownership. So, Jacksonville they are what I thought they were. Let's take a peek here. How are they playing lately? I'd like to see better from the Colts defense, to be honest, which is a little unfair from a team that only gave up 6 points last week and had like a blowout victory. But still, I'd like to see. I would like to see more from that defense because, I mean, the week before they gave up 34 and they only scored 7. So the model of inconsistency, quite frankly, maybe they turn it around a little bit with, back-to-back wins to end the season. Jacksonville's offense is just not good, especially without some of those impact players like DJ Chark has been limited in the last few weeks or just not played outright. The defense has not played well, especially down the stretch here. They had one game a couple weeks ago where they only gave up 16 points, but other than that, it's been 24, 45, and 28. That defense is not playing very well. Let's take the Indianapolis Colts as the favorite on the road there. They're at least a team that I believe in. Let's take the Colts in Jacksonville to beat the Jags. All right. Let's see here. Where are our numbers? There it is. On the line, the Colts are laying 5.5 points on the road as the favorite. A lot of line movement in this one. The line opened at Jacksonville, a 1-point dog. They're now obviously a 5.5-point dog. I just don't think I can trust the defense. I really, really don't. Oh, boy. Neither one of these teams are overly impressive against the spread lately. But under a touchdown, I think that's a relatively accurate statement of what these two teams are. So why don't we grab Indy to cover the -5.5? So we're going to lay the 5.5 points there on the Colts. Total in the game is set at 42. If we go back to how these teams are playing lately, neither one of the defenses statistically have looked all that great lately. I think I might have to lean over on that one where it's such a low number. We're going to go over 42 points in Indianapolis, Jacksonville. Let's go with the Colts 24. I don't think this is going to fly over one way or the other, but let's take the Colts 24. No, actually, I'm going to need a couple more points than that. We're going to go Colts 27. And let's take 18 for the Jags, because that will cover the 5.5, and by my pirate maths, that will send us a couple points over the 42-point total. Let's see. Cody, I don't care about the line in this game. It's a pick 'em in my books. Wouldn't surprise me if either team wins. That's fair. Tony Khan should give a stunner to Marone tomorrow like he did to Sean Spears. Tony Khan should never be on my television ever again. Fournette and Boyer are both out tomorrow. Great information to have there. Doesn't surprise me. I mean, there's also a difference between playing Drew Brees and Will Grier. That's fair. That is 100% fair. And Chad with some weather information. QB for Jacksonville has cramps in his legs when temperatures are that high. Interesting. Where did you get that piece of information? That's tremendous, Chad. All right. Good context there. Don't think I'll change the picks based on it, but good information and good context. All right. Let's go now. Pittsburgh in Baltimore taking on the Ravens. Obviously, the Ravens have already clinched the first round bye. Pittsburgh playing for their playoff lives. And obviously, Tennessee is in Houston, which is the next game we'll talk about. And the Titans are obviously in tough there in Houston, who can play, tremendous spoilers. Boy, Baltimore, with the number of people that Baltimore is going to be resting, it doesn't surprise me that Pittsburgh's coming into this game as the betting favorite, although I don't think it's a strong favorite. Yeah, they're -2, but still betting favorite. I just spilled tea on myself. That's the joy of streaming live. Good Lord. To quote Randall from Clerks, you're a mess. And very clearly I am. All right. So Pittsburgh -2. Again, where Lamar is going to be sitting. So that means what? RG3, I guess, at quarterback for most of the game. Oh boy, it'd be interesting to see what RG3 can do against um, a defense that plays well and is motivated and still has obviously the world to play for, trying to jump up into that playoff spot. I think I got to go with that. Rain for Baltimore, +7. All rookies playing for Baltimore, so I hear that doesn't surprise me at all. I would think most players of significance might play the first quarter or maybe only the first half and then have them sit down, because you still want them to get, live rounds. You still want them in game shape for 2 weeks from now. Supposedly McSorley is going to get reps from what I've heard. Yeah, I think there's too much uncertainty for me with the Ravens and who's going to play and how much they're going to play. So I think we got to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers here, even though, like, look, I don't think this is one of those situations where Baltimore is crazy heavily motivated to try to keep Pittsburgh out of the playoffs. That just doesn't strike me as, I don't think they are that concerned about the Steelers, if I'm being perfectly honest. No disrespect to Steelers fans, but let's grab Pittsburgh in that one. We'll take Pittsburgh on the road in Baltimore to beat the Ravens. Again, worth noting that Pittsburgh defense over the last month has been playing very, very well. TJ Watt, I think, should probably be the defensive player of the year, but there's a lot of really, really good arguments to be made for other people. Pittsburgh -2, it's a small price to pay. If I'm going to take him to win, I think I'd be silly not to lay a measly 2 points. Total in the game set at 37. I feel pretty comfortable about going under on this one because, again, who knows who's playing for the Baltimore Ravens and how much. So let's go 20-13 here for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh wins 20-13. So we're going to stay under the 37-point total, even though that's such a low number. That only gets to 33, and Pittsburgh covers the -2. It's a rivalry, bro. It always matters. You're right. You're not wrong. It is definitely a rivalry, and there's players on that Baltimore team that, like, they get up, they want to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I totally get that, but every player on that Baltimore team wants to win a Super Bowl. So going all out in Week 17, I feel like the coaching staff there is good enough to say, like, look, I know you want to beat these guys, and I know you want to beat them bad, but you're at a 9, need you to about a 6, because I need you at a 10 in 2 weeks. So I just kind of feel like that's the way the game plays out. But it is a rivalry game. You're 100% right. All right, only 2 more games left to go. The Tennessee Titans in Houston taking on the Texans. Now, this is a situation where I think the Houston Texans are going to be a bit more motivated to beat Tennessee, simply because if they don't, you have a situation that exists that these two teams play each other again next week. And I don't necessarily know how much the Houston Texans want to play a division rival on Wild Card weekend. So this is a spot where I think Houston's a little more motivated, even if they are going to rest some starters, maybe for the second half of the game or what have you. Like, Houston all but knows that they're playing, like they can't get a first round bye. So they know they're playing Wild Card weekend. It's probably going to be against the Bills, but I mean, again, or actually, I guess, it almost. Well, no, if the Chiefs lose, there's weird stuff that can happen. But the point is, I think Houston is motivated enough to try to keep Tennessee out. Almost lost it there. Again, all these sips of water and everything is stuff that I can keep away from your virgin ears when I have the luxury of doing the podcast. Let's see. Cody in the chat says Tomlin, coach of the year, if Pittsburgh gets that 6th seed. Man, you can make an argument. You can definitely make an argument for Mike Tomlin. Oh, that's cool. I adjusted the colors by doing that. You can definitely make an argument that Mike Tomlin should be in the running for coach of the year if he drags that team without his number one, without his franchise quarterback, without the guy that's been his franchise wide receiver, with his franchise wide receiver's replacement in Juju Smith-Schuster underwhelming for most of the season, without Le'Veon Bell, without James Conner for a good chunk of the season. Just on the potency of that defense, if he drags that team into the playoffs, I don't know how you don't at least give him consideration, considering the circumstances that he's had. I've been on record saying I think my top 3 coach of the year ballot is Harbaugh, Matt LaFleur, and Tomlin. Hell with it, Mike Tomlin, or Andy Reid, I guess. Or there's a lot of great options. I think Matt LaFleur should be in there because you got a Green Bay team that has only won 13 games over the last 2 seasons, and now they become a 13-win team and win their division. So I think Matt LaFleur is very heavily into that conversation, but obviously there's a lot of great conversation that can be had about coach of the year. So let's go back to our game here. Tennessee and Houston. How are these teams playing lately? Let's see. Houston's about even money. Tennessee, their offense still humming along really, really well. Houston's defense has gotten a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. They did have a 38-point stinker 3 weeks ago, but beyond that, it's been 20 points, 21 points, and 22 points. So they've gotten decent defensively at the right time. Good enough, obviously, to win the division and guarantee that they're going to the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they rested some people. And I think it's all but confirmed that they are going to rest some people. But boy, they've got to be motivated because I mean, if they lose this game, this is what I'll put out there. I'll put forward. If they lose this game and Tennessee gets into the playoffs and somehow through the shuffle, Houston and Tennessee have to play each other wild card weekend and Tennessee beats them again, then they've got nobody to blame but themselves because they let a division rival get in and they were very motivated to beat them and they weren't able to do it. Houston would have no one to blame for that but themselves. It would be a rather poetic end, in fact, for the Houston Texans season. I've got to believe that Houston is not interested in that scenario playing itself out. So even though they're the underdogs in this one, I'm actually going to take the Houston Texans. They're a home underdog. I'm going to take Houston straight up to beat the Tennessee Titans. I think motivation trumps all in this case. Let's take Houston to win. All right. So let's see, because this line is very, very high. It's Houston's a 6-point dog at home. That's hedge city all day. So we're going to hedge our bets there one way or the other and grab those points, Houston +6. Because let's look and see, have they officially announced people that they are going to be sitting due to rest? It doesn't look like that's officially come out. Now, yeah, granted, there's, a number of people that have been injured and are sitting as questionable and what have you, especially DeAndre Hopkins. But he's only questionable with an illness. So would not surprise me if he at least plays the first half. You're welcome. No, I feel okay about that. I feel okay saying Houston wins that game outright. So obviously I like Houston +6 against the spread. Total in the game is set at, where's our total here? 44.5, I believe it is. That's another one of those middling numbers that could be one of those numbers that goes either way. But given that both defenses are giving up at least 25 points a game, and I mean, Tennessee is one of the highest scoring offenses over the last month, I think I got to go over on that one. And I think, what did Chad say here in the chat? Houston's game is indoors, so they can weather control that game. I think the game goes over that total. So we are going to go, once I find it again, we're going to go over. It's actually only 44 points. Sorry about that. We're going to go over the 44-point total in Houston, Tennessee. I'm going to take Houston to win this game outright. We are going to go Texans 28, Titans 23. 28-23. Texans win the game outright. Even if they do rest a couple of starters, we go well over the total. And now we only have one singular game left to play, and that is the Seattle Seahawks at home playing host to the San Francisco 49ers. And this game is for the division. Seahawks at 11-4. Niners at 12-3. They're both going to the playoffs, but this division is not spoken for yet. Seattle obviously has the great benefit of having home field advantage in this game and getting to play in a very difficult place for other teams to win in. Now, San Francisco's been good on the road this season. My God, they're 6-1. They've been excellent this season. Seattle, by comparison, bit of a down home year at 4-3. And it's interesting because Seattle comes into this game as the underdog, and they're a relatively heavy underdog as well at +3.5. We're just going to pop over into the chat here, see if folks are saying anything of significance. Let's see. A lot of coaches that deserve votes this year for Coach of the Year. Houston is resting 5 players, I hear. Okay, that's interesting. Like I say, it wasn't showing up there officially, but that could very well be the case. The only way for that to happen would be a 6-3, and I don't see KC losing to the Chargers. You're absolutely right. I mean, weird stuff happens. Maybe this is the one game that the Chargers say, screw you, Justin, and beats the Chiefs. So I wouldn't think Watson would be playing much. Watson's nursing a back injury, I think, is he not? So you could be very well there. As a Ravens fan, I'd rather keep KC at the 3 seed, rather not deal with them or New England till the AFC Championship game. Totally understand. Okay, Chad, San Francisco game +7. Of course, that's Celsius whenever Chad gives temperatures, the proper way to give temperatures, in fact. Game +7, some wind. I'm not too concerned about that with Russell Wilson and with Jimmy Garoppolo and with a pair of good defenses and good offenses. Not overly concerned about the wind. Revenge for the 49ers. Chad says that could absolutely be the case. Cody just says Canadians. Hey, it's not our fault that we do things right. So back to the game. Seattle and San Francisco. Two teams playing relatively similarly, actually, lately. I made a tweet a little while ago that the 49ers were becoming what I called a glass cannon, and becoming a glass cannon at the worst possible time. So this is still one of the best offenses in football over the last month. They're scoring a good number of points, averaging 30 a game. You're welcome. My problem is the Niners defense, statistically, by scoring, is the second worst scoring defense in the NFL over the last month. Second only to the Carolina Panthers. Now, granted, the Niners have played some really good offenses in that stretch. Give up 31 points last week, 29 the week before, 46 the week before that. They've played some great offenses. But this is supposed to be an elite team, supposed to be an elite defense. This is this team becoming a glass cannon at the worst possible time. And we know that the Seattle Seahawks are more than capable of putting some points on the board. 2 of the last 4 weeks, they've put up at least 30. The defense hasn't exactly played the greatest, but there is something in the Seahawks adding Marshawn Lynch. Some people are going to roll their eyes at this, but it is what it is. Marshawn Lynch means so much to the culture of the Seattle Seahawks, to that Super Bowl culture, that feeling of, my God, we had a Super Bowl championship right there, and we gave it away by not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch. Still one of the most mind-blowing play calls I've ever seen in my life at how ridiculously stupid it was. You can't deny the emotional aspect of this. Well, maybe you can if you don't think it means anything, but it means something. It has to mean something to bring it, because there's no other reason to bring a guy like that back. There's other people you could have signed to start in your backfield. There's guys that have been cut, or guys that have been practice squatted, or like there's stuff that you can do. You didn't have to sign Marshawn Lynch. You signed Marshawn Lynch for a reason. That reason is unfinished business. And I feel like emotionally, you kind of ride that wave. I think Seattle wins this football game. I don't like what I've seen from the 49ers over the last month. It is concerning to me how they are going into the playoffs. I don't think they win the division. I think Seattle does. Seahawks in the final regular season game of 2019. I'm taking Seattle to win that football game. Really interesting comment here from Cody, actually, in the chat. There's a streak, I believe, that for the last 20 years, that a 12-win team, specifically a 12-win team, has not won a playoff game. Wow. If that's true, that's actually really, really interesting. Wouldn't surprise me if the Niners continued that streak. It's just really concerning to me as an outsider looking in. Like, I'm not in that fan base, but as an outsider looking in, that would scare me. That would scare me big time. The way the Niners, the numbers, just from a numbers perspective, the numbers the Niners have put up in the last little while would really scare me if I was a Niners fan. So I'm taking Seattle in their home building to win that football game and win the division. So on the line, like we mentioned, Seattle 3.5-point dog. I am more than happy to take those 3.5 points on the Seattle Seahawks. Total in the game set at 45.5 points. I feel really confident about an over here. I wouldn't be surprised if this game hits 50. The defense is not exactly the greatest lately, and these are offenses that can put up some points. So let's take over the 45.5 point total. In that one, we are going to go Seahawks 32, Niners 27. 32-27 for Seattle. Seahawks win the game. Seahawks win the division. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And wouldn't you know who won the pony? That's the end of our NFL season. So very quickly, I'm going to go over the picks here with you one more time. How we're going straight up and how we're going against the spread. Straight up, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, Green Bay Packers, Kansas City Chiefs, Minnesota Vikings, New England Patriots, Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints, Dallas Cowboys, Denver Broncos, Arizona Cardinals, New York Giants, Indianapolis Colts, Pittsburgh Steelers, Houston Texans, and Seattle Seahawks to win their games straight up. A couple of road victories in there. I've got 6 upset picks based on the betting numbers. So we got a healthy mix in there to probably get, again, at least 4 as the rule of 4 dictates. Against the spread, which we'll refer to our paper here, we are going Buffalo minus 1.5, Cincinnati plus 2.5, Green Bay covering minus 12.5, the Chargers covering plus 9, Minnesota plus 3.5, Miami plus 17, Atlanta plus 1, the Saints covering minus 13.5, the Redskins plus 13, the Broncos covering minus 3.5, Arizona plus 6.5, the Giants plus 4, Indianapolis minus 5.5, Pittsburgh minus 2, Houston plus 6, and Seattle plus 3.5. And of the 16 totals, we are going with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 overs in the 16 games. We're going, let's see, under 36.5 with Buffalo, over 43.5 with Cincinnati, over 43.5 with Green Bay, over 45.5 with the Chargers, under 36 with Minnesota, over 44.5 with Miami, over 47.5 with Atlanta, over 45 with New Orleans, over 45.5 with Washington, under 40.5 with Denver, under 45 with both Arizona and the New York Giants, over 42 with Indianapolis, under 37 with Pittsburgh, over 44 with Houston, and over 45.5 with the Seattle Seahawks. Ladies and gentlemen, that is week 17. Those are your week 17 picks. They are in the books. We've had about a 2-hour stream here where we have fulfilled the final week of the NFL regular season. Thank you so much. If you've been a longtime viewer of mine, if you just showed up for the very first time, thank you so much. Again, this is the most chaotic of these episodes that you'll probably ever see. We'll pop back in the chat here just for our final thoughts. We're all losing money in the end. Cody, 10-4 to that. Good, buddy. Chad says, take care, Chad again, but keep an eye on the weather for that game, my friends. Absolutely. Chad, thank you so much for stopping by. I've never seen your name in chats or in the comments section before. I hope you stick around. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And yeah, those are the picks for week 17. The regular season is now in the books. Fingers crossed, hopefully, we have ourselves a good cap to the season. Hopefully we have a strong week 17. And on Tuesday, we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled programming, even though, let's see, Tuesday is New Year's Eve. Doesn't matter. Your boy, on Tuesday, will be back here for the Wild Card Weekend episode. Tuesday, we will be back. Wild Card Weekend picks. I cannot wait for it. Let's finish the regular season strong with these picks, fingers crossed, and have ourselves an excellent 2019 playoffs. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Teas to take my last sip of fantastic cookie dough flavored tea. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me in the stream. Thank you to Martin, to Cody, to Chad, to anybody else that has showed up in the comments. Matt, the NFL fanatic. Thank you so much for everything that you chipped into the episode today. We still got 10 viewers strong here, even approaching 2 hours. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the Week 17 episode. Enjoy the Week 17 games. We will see you again on Tuesday for Wild Card Weekend playoff picks. And who knows, maybe for the Super Bowl, maybe we do another live stream. Why not? So again, Chad, Martin, Cody, Matt, thank you so much for stopping in. Thanks for checking out the stream. I wouldn't typically do this for this kind of episode, but I mean, I actually kind of enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying streaming. It doesn't really help towards getting the YouTube partnership back, but I'm enjoying streaming. So we'll try to do this maybe a little more often, especially in the off season, especially talk some NHL, do all kinds of fun stuff. Thank you so much for joining the stream. We're going to end the stream in 5, 4, 3. Enjoy the games. See ya.